Hi guys, it's Mrs. Mormon. I am here to discuss today's lesson, which is based on the short story called The Elevator. This is by William Sleater, and it's kind of a horror mystery story, a little bit interesting. Not only are you going to be reading this text, well, I should say you have the option to read it on your own, or there is an audio that I have put on Schoology for you. Miss Bacher has the same one as well. But after you have read through or listened to it, the next thing that you're going to have to do is actually take the paper copy of The Elevator and start analyzing, also known as marking the text, using guided questions that Mrs. Bacher and myself have provided for you. So hopefully you really enjoyed this short story because I think it's kind of creepy. The next thing, so these are your guided questions to help you with your reading to help analyze the text. There are 4 symbols that you're going to be able to use as you read your text. The first one is a plus sign, and you're going to mark a plus sign in the margins, which are the sides of the story, anytime that you feel that there is some sort of suspense. So you're going to explain what is suspenseful and why. So you'll put a plus there, and then you're going to say, this is suspenseful because of this. The next symbol that you're going to use is a minus mark. And anytime that we are introduced to a new character or we learn something new about an existing character, you're going to use this minus symbol. And basically, this is helping us to dig into learning more about this particular character. You're going to explain what you're learning about the character and why it might matter. Because sometimes when a author decides to talk about a character, it really doesn't make a difference. But if you're choosing to put a mark there, there must be a reason why this character matters. The next is a star. Anytime that you're finding conflict is arising, okay, something that is creating a problem either within the character, within 2 different characters, or something even with just the environment that they're in, you're going to use that star. Then you're going to analyze who is having conflict, why the conflict might be occurring, and then if you can go this far, what type of conflict this is. This might be man versus self, man versus person, man versus nature, and so forth. And then the last one is a question mark. And this is just your ability if you're ever confused. And confused doesn't mean that you don't get it. It might be of just like not completely understanding where the story is leading you. And then you're just going to kind of describe why that confuses you. Okay, and some of us know this, some of us don't, but I marked out on the sides. This is considered your margins. So when you are marking the text, this is where you are writing all of your notes. So I'm going to start out just by reading the first 2 paragraphs of this. I know you guys have already done that. But then I'll show you kind of model how I went ahead and marked the text to analyze it. So this is The Elevator by William Sleater. It was an old building with an old elevator, a very small elevator with a maximum capacity of 3 people. Martin, a thin 12-year-old, felt nervous in it from the first day he and his father moved into the apartment. Of course, he was always uncomfortable in elevators, afraid that they would fall. But there was something especially unpleasant about this one. Perhaps its baleful atmosphere was due to the light from the single fluorescent ceiling strip, bleak and dim on the dirty brown walls. Perhaps the problem was the door, which never stayed open quite long enough and slammed shut with such ominous clanging finality. Perhaps it was the way the mechanism shuddered in a kind of exhaustion each time it left a floor, as though it might never reach the next one. Maybe it was simply the dimensions of the contraption that bothered him, so small that it felt uncomfortably crowded, even when there was only one other person in it. Okay, so that should jog your memory about reading The Elevator. So here is the beginning of my modeling. You'll notice right here I have a minus, and I've chosen to underline what I'm talking about. You don't have to. Some people use highlighters, but it kind of gives me an idea of where it is that I'm pointing to. So my minus, this means the character, and this is when Martin, a thin 12-year-old. I actually asked the question of why talk about his size? And I really probably should add something about it, that it's kind of making him seem almost weak, that he's thin, And as they continue going on, it definitely shows that this is true. And then there's some suspense that starts to arise. It says, but there was something especially unpleasant about this one. Put a plus mark and I wrote suspenseful. I said, because the story is about an elevator and it is already talking about an unpleasant one. Okay, so we already know something bad is going to happen. It's unpleasant. It's not this main character, Martin, is not liking being in this. Then, I know I didn't read the rest of this, but knowing that you guys have read this already, I think it should be okay. Then where it says, coming home from school the day after they moved in, Martin tried the stairs. I put a confusion here. I said, why is Martin so scared of dark places? And I might even be able to say, why is Martin so scared of elevators? Because he's trying to avoid the elevator by using the stairs. I have here his father. I know his father was introduced at the very beginning saying that he and Martin had moved into an apartment, but this was completely by himself. So I chose to use this as a character. Said Martin's father is not very nice to his son. And then the very last sentence on the first page says, the elevator was an undeniable fact of life. To me, this was a conflict, so I used that star. And I said, Martin will have to take the elevator even though he doesn't want to. And this conflict really is Martin against himself. So person to self. And this develops throughout the story, as if you've read it, you've probably now understand it. So here's an example of what my first page looks like completely while I marked the text. And this is really what yours should look like. You're going to do this throughout the whole entire text using the 4 symbols that I gave you, the plus symbol, the minus, the star, and the question mark. With that said, please, please, please make sure that you reach out to Miss Bacher or myself if you do have questions. The whole reason for doing this is to be able to dig into a text and really get to know it besides just reading it for its surface levels. Hope that makes sense.